Hello, welcome to RT Magazine, a show about Middletown High School, its students, and the community. News about you and for you. I'm Erin Katie. In this week's episode, MHS athletes are getting back to practices, but things definitely look and feel different this year. Gabby Pieklo talks to some of the athletes. Caden Ratliff tells us that though the Frederick Fair may be canceled, the fairgrounds have found a great way to get people out of the house and to a safely shared experience. Ethan Mulliken recommends his favorite Rocky movie, and it may come as a surprise. And Gabby Pieklo gets us into the fall spirit by showing us other ways to use a pumpkin rather than just carving it as a decoration. This week's show is brought to you by
The Main Cup, local flavor that perks.
In our first segment, Gabby Pieklo tells us how athletes are handling delayed starts to their seasons and how they are staying safe while also staying fit.
County Public Schools has allowed fall sports teams to have social distance conditioning practices from August 31st to September 25th.
Most MHS student athletes enjoy having these practices.
The sports that are able to do it, I think it's a good thing. Like, a lot of conditioning's going in order to get everybody prepared for like seasons if they're in the spring.
I think it's good to get us back in shape, even though we're not doing a bunch of volleyball skills.
I think it's good because we get to get out of our house every once in a while and see our teammates.
They explained some of the things they were looking forward to.
Hopefully winning another state championship. We were looking really good again coming into this season.
I was really looking forward to just like the team aspect, just like being able to go to practice every day after school. It's just kind of like relief, and not having is just kind of sucking, but I kind of like it now.
I was looking forward to Friday Night Lights. Hopefully we'll get the shortened season that they've promised us.
Racing and going to states. Being the leader and senior night especially.
Madison Brown, athletic trainer for MHS, gives us details about some of the precautions they're taking for the athletes and coaches.
Pretty much beforehand, everyone has to fill out a COVID sheet, which is just kind of explains the signs and symptoms and just kind of states, I'm not going to come if I'm sick. And then every day they have to check in with me, and I kind of run through hey, have y'all had any of these symptoms? Fever, coughing, the whole 9 yards, and I have it listed in front of me. And then I asked if they've been in contact with anyone that's had COVID, and they have to hand sanitize before they go to a practice. All of the equipment they touch is sanitized. We make them wear masks anytime they're not participating in an athletic setting. So like anytime they're waiting to go up to their practice, they have to wear a mask, or when they're walking around. And we also have separated our teams into pods of 15 or less. So each team is separated into different number of pods, and those pods can only work with each other. So no athlete is like going into another pod, so there's not cross-contamination either.
The athletes share how their practices are different from normal ones.
Cross country has to stay on campus.
Usually we have fun getting the mats out, and we'd always like get prepared and tumble and stunt, and now we don't get mats out and we don't get to tumble or stunt.
Well, normal practices, we actually have a net, and we're inside, and we do a lot of volleyball drills with volleyballs instead of running and conditioning.
They're all in hopes for a season in the spring.
It's definitely an opportunity for our team to win another state championship, so.
I think it definitely should happen. I'm going to be very upset if it doesn't.
I think they should let us do that, especially if like COVID's looking good and like the levels are down.
I'll be happy if we do. I mean, it'll be colder when we start and we'll end warmer, so it'll be different, but I'm excited to see how they do it.
The senior athletes share their feelings about having this different season in their last year of high school.
That is very, very sad. I love being under the lights with, not even my team, but the town. Middletown is such a football town, and it really brings the town together.
It's definitely not what I expected, but I'm going to make the most out of it, and yeah.
I mean, I'm really sad about it, but what can you do? Like, it's already done. Like, I don't know. You just try to make the most of what you have.
I was upset at first, but I've got over it because like the whole world, we have to compromise for things going on right now, and it's just a compromise that I'm willing to make.
It's definitely a change. We all have to deal with it, and at least I get to practice in maybe a spring season.
As a diversion, we've been watching a lot of TV and movies during the pandemic, but how many of you have done a deep dive into the Rocky franchise? Ethan Mullican has, and he's got a recommendation for what he thinks is the best of the whole batch.
Rocky Balboa is the 6th installment in the famous Rocky franchise and by far the most underrated Rocky film. It is very entertaining with a nice return to formula for Rocky and has references that pleases the fans. Whether or not you are new to the franchise, this movie will still hold up and I highly recommend it.
A couple of generations ago, going to the drive-in movies was pretty common. Well, what's old is new again. The Frederick Fairgrounds are showing movies in what is usually the Midway. Caden Ratliff gives us a look.
As we know now, the Great Frederick Fair is cancelled due to COVID-19, which led to the fairgrounds being empty. With an effort to fill the space, Choicey and partners had a great idea of putting in a drive-in movie theater on the grounds. It'll only be for the fall season. They'll have premium tickets and general admission tickets. Tickets are around $20 to $30 depending on the movie. And they'll have food trucks like Roast House, Straits Concessions, and Oldie Mother. Now let's hear from Gabby Coleman and Aaron Katie about their experiences at the drive-in. How is the event set up?
Okay, so basically you go to the Frederick Fairgrounds and the security people will tell you where to go, and you just park your car, and a lot of people just sit in their trunks. Some people bring lawn chairs, and you can just sit out and watch the movie.
My second question is, what the event look like?
So there's this huge screen that you can see all around the fairgrounds, and there were just like a ton of cars, and like all the cars were socially distanced and everything, and yeah.
Okay, my fourth question is, what were the COVID-19 safety precautions?
So all of the security people that like were directing you where to go, and like when you had to roll down your window down to like talk to people, they all had masks on. And then all of the cars were 6 feet apart, and if you wanted to be even further from people, you could park further back. And it was all outside too, so that also helped.
What was the event like?
So it was really fun. I went with my family and we watched Forrest Gump, and we just sat in the back of our car, and you couldn't really hear the people around you talking, so it was nice and like secluded for just the people you were with. It's just so you could watch the movie, and the movie was nice and loud too, since you tuned into it on your radio.
What type of concessions? What type of concessions were there, and were there any lines?
There were. It was fair food, so there was like funnel cake, and I think there might have been barbecue stand, but the lines weren't that long.
What movie did you go see, and how was the quality of it?
We saw The Great Outdoors and Jumanji. The screen was really big, and you tuned in with your radio, so you could hear everything perfectly fine. It was really good. Okay, and are there people there to help you, like where to go, and were they really helpful? Yes, they flag you when you come in, and then you pay, and you get a card to put in your windshield, and people guide you from wherever, and they help you park and stuff like that. And my last question is, do you recommend bringing things? If so, what should we bring? I recommend blankets, pillows, and maybe even your own food. We only got a funnel cake, and we came with food prepared, so I recommend that.
On Saturday 26th, they'll be showing Finding Nemo starting at 1 and ending at 2. And a double feature of The Incredibles and Black Panther starting at 5 and ending at 7. On Sunday the 27th, they'll be showing Cars starting at 1 and ending at 2. And Days of Thunder starting at 5 and ending at 7. But don't worry, there'll be more films to come. And to find out what movies they'll have next and where to buy your tickets, you can go to tgpmovienights.com, or you can look up Troy C. Gatewood and Partners Fall Movie Nights.
It's pumpkin season. Pumpkin flavored drinks, pumpkin pie, pumpkin this, pumpkin that. Gabby Pieklo breaks down the pumpkin, literally, and shows us how to make the most of it.
Hi, I'm Gabby, and I'm going to be showing you what you can do with a pumpkin. I got mine at Safeway for $3, and we'll be making pumpkin seeds and puree pumpkin. Start by preheating your oven to 400 degrees, and add a piece of parchment paper to a pan or cookie sheet. Now you're going to use a large knife and cut down the side of the pumpkin. You're going to go from the top all the way to the bottom. You see you made that large cut down the center, and now you're going to flip it to the other side, and you're going to do the same thing directly across from where your other cut was. You want to cut it so that you can go straight through the bottom, because you can't cut through the stem at the top. Now you're going to break it so that the stem comes off or breaks and you can see all the insides. And now you can start scooping out the seeds and other pumpkin stuff in there. Be sure to set the seeds aside because we'll be using those. So now you have hollowed out both of your halves, and you're going to flip them over so the halves are down, and you bake for 45 minutes. Now for the pumpkin seeds. So you're going to get a colander and you're going to dump the seeds into there and rinse them out so that it mostly separates all of the pumpkin gunk from the seeds. It may get stuck together, so you may have to separate it with your fingers, and that takes a while. Now it's all separated from the seeds and the pumpkin residue. Now start boiling water and salt in a saucepan on high heat. Add your seeds, stir once, and then wait for it to start boiling. Now you're going to put some olive oil on a baking sheet and start spreading it around. Now that your seeds have started boiling, lower the heat and let them simmer for 10 minutes. Once they're done, put them directly onto the sheet with the oil and start spreading them around to coat them and to spread them out on the pan. They also bake at 400 and they bake on the top rack, so you can put them in there with the pumpkin. They don't have a specific baking time, so you just need to check them until they're brown. Once your pumpkin is done, it should be soft enough that a knife can pierce through the skin. I transferred my pumpkin halves onto a cooling rack so they will cool faster. Once your seeds start to brown in the oven, you can take them out and transfer them to a cooling rack. Once the pumpkin is cool enough to handle, start peeling off the skin. Once your halves are peeled, start putting pieces of it into the food processor or a blender. I use my blender, but make sure if you use a blender to add water to it so the consistency is right. now we've made pumpkin seeds and pureed pumpkin.
That's it for this episode of RT Magazine, part of the Roundtable's multimedia experience. Thanks for watching. You can find all our episodes on mhsroundtable.com, or you can download our app, Student News Source, for access to our articles, videos, and podcasts. Have a great week.